I have two confessions to make. The first is that I didn't know how to pronounce or define the word macabre before conceptualizing this video. The second is that I slightly detest the fact that my personality revolves around a singular word. The term macabre is used to describe something that is strange or upsetting because it connects to death or violence. I personally am obsessed not with the idea of dying, but what death entails altogether. Normally, in the Christian faith, it's relatively simple. Give your life to God and His Word, die, then go to heaven. Well, that's a heavily abridged version, but it's still roughly correct. But even if you have faith in something, it doesn't mean yours is the only correct answer. In Buddhism, it's believed that when you die, you're reincarnated. In atheism, you die, and, well, that's it. Nothing. I am by no means a theologist, and as with Christianity, I have abridged only two of a vast sea of faiths and religions. As I do with the faiths I've listed, I like to believe that we're all right, because these answers are all too fascinating to not be. So we go back to macabre. Death doesn't lead to one door, but several. And that's fun to examine. Altogether, it's extremely comforting. That was one of the gears that got this video going. I'm simply obsessed with death and love the concept of it. The second gear was a staple saying from my best friend. At times, I have no idea where we're going. I ask him, as he's the designated driver, "Where are we going?" To which he aptly responds, "To hell if we don't change our ways." Well, that is certainly a pleasant precursor for an extended drive, but it adds to my joyful obsession. What if we were actually each other's herald to the afterlife, and perhaps only he knew? That'd be pretty sick, actually. My last moment, my crossing over moment, is a car ride with my best friend. The third and final gear ties very closely to the second. In an interview with Keanu Reeves, Stephen Colbert asked him, "What do you think happens when we die, Keanu Reeves?" To which Keanu answers, "I know that the ones who love us will miss us." This is by far the most beautiful answer to the question. Keanu doesn't mention anything about the afterlife or harp on the intricacies of where the soul goes and how the body decays. He simply states the obvious: we will be missed. Who am I saying goodbye to before I get into that car? While Keanu seems to have peace with his answer, I need to know more, and I won't until my time comes, which I hope won't be for a very long time. Despite my melancholic tone and words, I need you to remember, this is fun for me, which leads me to why you and I are together right now. There are two pieces of media that I want to briefly look into as they incorporate one of my favorite ideas about death. These two, Hibine Renmei and Corpse Bride, bring the concept of salvation to the discussion. The definition I will present to you today is salvation as a way of being saved from danger, loss, or harm. Now we can finally get to the fun part. Hibine Renmei is an anime that released in 2002, conceptualized by Yoshitoshi Abe and drawn from his early doujinshi of the same name, also called Charcoal Feather Federation. Hibine Renmei follows Raka, a newly born Hibine, as she adapts to her new environment and life. You may have heard this several times, but Hibine Renmei isn't focused on explaining much of anything to you. You quite literally sit back and enjoy the show. Finally bridging the gap between slice of life and psychological drama, Hibine Renmei is enigmatic from beginning to end. Why, in the first episode when Raka is born, does she sprout wings in a terrifying, intense, and nearly vomit-inducing way, fall ill, recover, and also have an adorable gag where she receives a halo that gives her perpetual bedhead, only for the next episode to focus on a pleasant outing to the town of Glie and the revelation that she has to get a job? Well, simply put, because it's Hibine Renmei. The rules don't fully make sense, and for good reason. The Hibine are taken care of by the people of Glie in a sense. They work to repay kindness, can only receive items secondhand, and are typically known all around town. Despite their dual status of celebrity and commoner, it's evident that the Hibine are reborn in and cannot leave Glie. That isn't everything though. A Hibine typically has some sort of mission, a feeling that must be fulfilled at some point during their existence that allows an event called the Day of Flight to occur. On the Day of Flight, a Hibine goes to a secluded area, away from where anyone can see them, and goes beyond the walls of Glie that they have spent their entire tenure as a Hibine locked behind. To everyone, there is both a fear and a hope for this day, as while this Hibine will no longer be in the presence of every friend they've come to make, they are also moving on to their next plane of existence. Given the wings and halos that the Hibine receive upon their arrival to this new world, with everything about their past lives gone, this can very much be seen as the bridge between life and the afterlife. That could be why the wings don't work. That could be why Raka's halo doesn't make her look holy. Perhaps death has come, but the afterlife hasn't. If it did, how could the Hibine live amongst the humans within the walls of Glie? As with people who are not Hibine, including you and I, the Hibine aren't immune from the gamut of emotions that come with being a sentient being. They feel joy, they feel fear, and they feel despair. In my research, I found one of the only interviews in existence that shows Abe talking about his conception of Hibine Renmei. In the interview, he alludes to being troubled at one point and ultimately finding salvation. That salvation is what he based this series on, with it being an essential part to our existence. If we apply this salvation to the Day of Flight and how it affects our characters to the very end of the series, Abe's work makes perfect sense. Though he wants people to find their own meaning, I think he executes the idea brilliantly here. In Hibine Renmei, being born as a Hibine is akin to the drive my best friend and I are taking. But where we jokingly find hell, the point of becoming a Hibine is to find peace and acceptance, to fulfill a personal need and purpose in order to cross over to the other side. And the other Hibine and community of Glie all exist to make this happen. Through its emotional highs and lows, Hibine Renmei is a quiet meditation on what finding salvation means for different people. But in this muted yet beautiful world, while there is life and fun, there isn't necessarily any major excitement that I can recall. Nothing that makes me think anything beyond, yes, serenity. But it isn't the only examination of the bridge, is it? Is the dead truly dead? If we look at Hibine Renmei, the answer is a quiet no. But with Corpse Bride, it's a resounding no way. This is freaky, and I'm here for it. Whereas the world of Hibine Renmei is muted in color, the same only rings true in the land of the living in Corpse Bride. But once you die, everything turns from gray to a neon green, among other playful colors one can associate with death. The film follows a man named Victor who is forced into an arranged marriage with a woman he's never met named Victoria. Victor is a shy and clumsy young man who is terrified of the idea alongside quite literally everything, though after a failed wedding rehearsal, he accidentally ends up betrothing our titular corpse bride, Emily. Emily is a curious case. She, in several ways, reflects the opening moments of the film, which sees Victor patiently drawing a beautiful blue butterfly encased in glass before ultimately freeing it. Emily is trapped. A bride who is ultimately betrayed and murdered, which leads to her becoming, well, the corpse bride. But similarly to Raka, Emily finds herself in a world where she is affectionately looked upon. Blessed even. Nobody holds any ill will towards her, and they only want her to be happy. If Emily is akin to Raka, then the underworld is Glie, albeit with different rules. But that's the extent to what I'll say in terms of major plot points. Why would I bring Tim Burton's Corpse Bride into this conversation so briefly? Is it just to say that death is cool? Partially, yes. However, the film's inclusion brings something larger to the conversation. As we follow Emily, as we travel through the brightly colored, friendly, and fun afterlife, we are witnessing something equal to what we witness with Yoshitoshi Abe and Haibane Renmei. Someone's interpretation of what happens between life and the afterlife. The journeys exemplified here are so creative, one being somber and harrowing, and the other eccentric and oxymoronic, with death not being cold and desolate, but warm and loving, and above all else, it's just cute. As a side note, there is something to be said too about the decision to make Corpse Bride stop motion. Stop motion is extremely time consuming and has the exhaustive task of bringing an actual lifeless model to life. The story wouldn't have lost any charm had it been 2D or fully computer generated. It feels like a dream. In a way that no other form of animation can give me, stop motion feels akin to a sort of spiritual experience, as you can almost feel everything that went into the production of the show or film. Emily, the vibrant corpse that she is, doesn't feel like the dead. She truly feels like the living dead. To see Victor and Emily's journeys through the underworld is to see what it means to have humanity. To feel sorrow, jealousy, and to find peace so that they can move on to whatever awaits their respective life and afterlife, they have to find salvation. Tim Burton's exploration of what it and attaining peace means is what makes Corpse Bride so enticing. As a man who finds death immensely interesting, stories like these are some of my favorites to take in. Death may or may not be the end of the journey, but it is fun to think about what lies beyond and the lives we live beforehand. We can all dream and imagine, as Yoshitoshi Abe and Tim Burton do, because, at least in my heart, I believe we all deserve to make peace with the inevitable in ways that suit us, the billions of people on this planet, best.